So, I've been working for about 30 years on an idea, more than 30 years, almost 40 years on an idea, that it's just as important to understand why people do things as it is to try to understand how well they do them. And Mitch, of course, is a compatriot in this endeavor. And a long time ago, I started thinking about engagement in different ways. I started thinking about, golly, we know what fun is, but we don't know how to define it or describe it well. But, when we're in the middle of it, we know what it is. And so there's this thing about experience that we find hard to put into words because it's not just words. And there's this thing about mathematics that is so disconnected from our everyday experiences or those things that we hold dear, that very often we leave many students wondering in a quandary about why would I ever do this? And I would hope that's not even a legitimate question anymore. I mean, that people should understand and know that there are reasons why you might want to do it. Doesn't mean I want to do it. But there have to be ways of the utility of mathematics, its usefulness. And you talk with Jerry Golden, the beauty of mathematics and developing an intimacy with the mathematics, okay? And so these have all been things that have puzzled me. And, I think about 40 years. It's the 40th anniversary of A Nation at Risk. I wonder what the heck's going on. What have we done in terms of impact? It's been 34 years since the curriculum and evaluation standards came out. So it's been 13 years since Common Core, and I see a lot of the same things going on, but I see a lot of very different things going on, okay? So we have to be self-critical, but we also have to think about the inroads that we've made. Cognitive tools are being widely used. Calculators, it's almost not a question anymore. When that was a fight, right? Computer tools, visualization tools, communication tools, environments, things that are immersive, learning trajectories, okay? Once the realm of wishful thinking are now becoming much more common. And they're being used, actually. Assessment. We're becoming more diagnostic. We're becoming better at assessing and providing feedback in appropriate ways and quicker. Are we good at it? No. Not frankly. But we're getting better. And students, overall, right now, more students are taking more math than ever before in the history of the world. Now, is it the math we want? Are they taking that math and utilizing it in important ways? Do they even like it? Do they even want to use it after they've taken it? Those are questions that we have to begin asking ourselves. Because we have elusive goals. Achievement is elusive. It's hard to predict. There's a lot of predictive models, but most of those models have almost as much error of measurement as they do predicted power. Persistence. We can get students to do things in mathematics, and then we can take away supports, and then when they can stop. Equity. We're getting worse. Okay? With some amazing inroads with gender equity, okay, in terms of achievement, but with other things with gender, right, outside of achievement, we're not where we want to be. And so I want to think about these questions, and Melissa Grisolfi and Vicki Hand asked the first three questions, this idea of identity. Who am I in relation to mathematics, in relation to my teacher, in relation to the people around me? Who am I here, right, in this math class? Who am I here versus back home, or in another class, or in another situation? Who can I become? These are some of the very important questions that we need to begin asking ourselves, as well as asking about students, if we're going to enable mathematics to get this kind of grounded, okay, embodied, long-term, identity-forming trajectory in our students. Motivation, socialization, self-regulation, these are important questions. And they're relatively at a low level of importance, and have been since I started. And I think they're getting a little more important as we start to see our work change students, but yet students not necessarily continuing on in mathematics, even though they're learning more. And so I want to think about a metaphor. Okay. Now, Taruni asked me when she asked me to do this, she said, well, why don't you sing a couple of your songs? Okay, well, I will. And you're going to sing with me because come on. But I started thinking, music and mathematics are very, very similar in many ways. The doing of music, the doing of mathematics. And I have some myths up here. There are some myths. The first is that you have to be good to make music. We teach that with people, and children sing, and children pound on things, and children dance, and we teach it out of them. How many of you loved to sing and somebody drove it out of you? But you're not any good, or you're tone deaf, right? This is wrong. It's absolutely not borne out by research in music education, okay? And as a musician, I find it to be completely counterproductive, right? And of course, you'll know that this, by the way, sorry, shameless plug, upcoming EP October 7th from my band. Okay, some of you know this guy. My old mentor, Tom Romberg, once said to me, Jim, mathematics is like music. Okay, that's where I got this. He said, you don't learn music by playing scales and practicing notes. You learn music by playing music, by playing songs. And moreover, you learn by playing with others. You learn better with others. You learn faster with others. You learn routines, new ways of combining musical information into new and exciting phrases. Okay? And so if you look at those myths about music, you can see that there are direct parallels in what we teach students in mathematics. Okay? We're active in this and complicit. And so these are some of the things that, as a society, we put on things. And I'm going to sing a song for you. Right? This is a song that I wrote. And it's about Plato's allegory of the cave. Okay? Now, it's my own take on it. Right? I get to do that if I'm going to write a song. Take Plato, that guy. But as I look at what's happening now in our world, I see a lot of things in the attack on education and in mathematics. And I start to see that people, man, that's fun. So what happens when you have a guitar and you tune it up ahead of time is that it doesn't remain that way because the strings start to stretch. Some great physics in that. We'll see how it goes. So this is the refrain of the song. And what we have are people in the cave. There's fire in the cave. And it's creating these shadows. And people think that these shadows are the real world. Okay? When in fact, they are illusions. And we place meaning on these things that may or may not be true meaning. Okay? And in fact, there may be some people who are manipulating these shadows, causing the people to cry out and causing the people to be have a consternation. You'll hear that in the song. Okay? And so, did we just lose me? Is this still on the? Okay. And so what I'm going to be doing is singing. And the people cried out. All I got to do is cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, whoa, right? That's what you got to do. Can you do that? And the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, oh. Okay, that's what you got to do. Okay? Nothing changes in this song. All I'm going to be doing is doing this. That's it. Entire song. So this song should not work. We're breaking rules. It shouldn't work. It's the same thing all the way throughout. Here's the words. And we'll see if I can remember them because I wrote it. I mean, it's not like I heard it on the radio or anything. I woke up from a dream, saw that things weren't what they seemed, and I looked around for illumination. But the fire burned so bright, blinded my second sight, and the people cried out in wonder, and the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, whoa, and the people went crazy, lifting their voices up in praise, and the people sang, whoa, yeah. So I stepped out of the fire as the flames piled high, and I witnessed the cause of the consternation. It was the flames that caused the shades, twisting every move the people made into a grotesque, distorted play of shadows. And the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, oh, yeah. And the people went crazy, lifting their voices up in praise, and the people sang, whoa. And her shadows on the wall made not a sound at all, but the people cried out for wisdom with prayers of supplication, searching for salvation, but the shadows mocked every word they said. And the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, whoa. And the people went crazy, lifting their voices up in praise, and the people sang, whoa, you're doing good. So they danced there in the cave, asking the God to show the way. But for the fire, they could not see the light. So I turned my back to the gods the people prayed to on the walls and simply walked out in the sunshine. And the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, whoa, yeah. And the people went crazy, lifting their voices up in praise, and the people sang, whoa, oh. And the people cried out. They began to scream and shout, and the people sang, whoa, where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide? When the people found out that you lied, where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide? When the people found out that you lied, where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide? When the people found out that you lied. Okay. So what the hell was the point of all that? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Marty. Pat. Somebody go over there and smack Pat Herbst. No, thank you. No, I love music, you can tell. But what's the point, right? What's the point of that? Well, it's about engagement. Okay, those of you who raised your hand and somebody said, you're tone deaf. I don't care. When you're singing with a group, it doesn't matter. It's about volume, it's about exuberance, it's about emotion. Right? And so you, tone deaf person who you are, what? Right? Even though there's no such thing. Okay? It's just lack of experience, lack good instruction, people to help you, a social system around you that enables you to do prodigious things musically. Okay, right? So I got a couple guys here that I know on Friday afternoons get together with other folks around the country and learn how to play harmonica, and then they reveal their thought process. It's really geeky stuff. Revealing their thought processes as they play harmonica, right? And when you're playing with other people, when you have a social system that says, oh, that wrong note, that's just jazz. Okay? It doesn't matter, right? It's much easier to become good at it, to become proficient, and people aren't really caring whether you become proficient, they're caring about whether we're making music. And that's something to think about in mathematics. So let's talk about engagement. I have 4 points here. Engagement is embodied, okay? People who were happy and are excited about the song, who liked the song, who thought, well, this is all right, this is different, right? Okay, it's embodied. The engagement is embodied. People are sitting there who like it and just want to listen and learn the words. Okay, that's also embodied, okay? The emotion that you're feeling, your endorphins, or your endocrine system is changing your emotions, changing your attitude. Now, some of you also are very embarrassed. Middleton's up here, embarrassing the hell out of himself, right? You go, oh, okay, that is also embodied, okay? May not be as productive an engagement pattern, right? You may want to, I'm going to slip out the back. Hopefully he won't do this again, right? All of that sort of thing is part of our engagement, right? And everyone in the room is engaged, okay? In some way or another, in some pattern or another, in a productive way, in a less productive way, in a way that is personal, and in a way that is social. It's affective, I already talked about it. Multifaceted. We can be sad. My aunt died this week, so I'm going to go to Susanville, which is 80 miles away. I grew up here. And I'm going to visit my cousin, and we're going to cry together. I can be sad and I can be ecstatic at the same time. Okay? Multifaceted engagement. What kids bring to classrooms is greater than what they project. Okay? And it's cybernetic. Okay? It's a control system. Engagement is a control system that says, yep, keep on going, or nope, get out. Or I'm going to engage in this way, partially, or with these behaviors, or with these people, but not with these people. So engagement has this control aspect based upon feedback. And so our feedback systems in mathematics education need to be thought about seriously. The facets that we typically see are the cognitive, behavioral, and emotional or affective behaviors that Phyllis Blumenfeld and Fredericks and others of her students and colleagues have developed over the years. Kind of the tripartite notion of engagement. Yet, very recently, we've discovered a no-brainer, that engagement is also social, okay? And there's an opportunity to really make a difference in this field of work, which has been primarily psychological and can be expanded into the sociological and anthropological, linguistic spheres through this idea of social engagement. And over the last few years, I've been working on this through a grant from the National Science Foundation, and it's this huge, it looks like a plate of spaghetti, right? Lines going everywhere, meatballs, all sorts of things. But if I take this first part, if I take a look at that on the left-hand side and I explode it, you know, we have some baggage that we bring with us to a mathematics situation, any learner, right? We've got things that are associated with peer support. We've got things that are associated with teacher support. We have other things that I did not put on here, like cultural mores, values, parental support, other sorts of things, many other things, right? But we have these long-term memories that we're able to use to help us judge whether or not it's worthwhile, the worthwhileness of engaging in any mathematical task. And so then there's this transition as we're looking at, what do I got to do, right? Here's what I've got to do. Here's the rules for engagement. Here's all this stuff that I learned in the past about me being tone deaf or me being mathematically gifted or whatever. right? Whatever has been told or whatever you've experienced. And I'm going to create an initial model. I'm going to say, here's what's required. Here's what I bring. Here's how I can interact with those around me, the norms of participation. Here's what I'm interested in, not interested in, and I can develop in the moment attitudes about this activity that I can use then to modulate my behavior, okay? The cybernetic aspect. From that then, when we actually get into those experiences, right, you make this tentative model. Now we got to go test that model out against reality. And we see that there's this cognitive, affective, social, and behavioral notion of engagement, and those things feed off each other. In fact, of course, we all know that they're not even separate. They're not linearly independent. There's your matrix algebra there. Okay. They feed into each other, and they overlap. And people, of course, have social behavior, they have cognitive behavior, they have affective behavior, right? So these are just convenient ways of depicting kind of the manifestations of engagement, and they're helpful. But as we get more into the neuroscience of engagement, we'll start to see these barriers break down, and it'll become much more fascinating. But we also then have the social support that you receive or not, okay, or not from peers and others around you. We have the academic support that you receive or not from peers and teachers and others around you in the classroom. And those impact your emotions. When someone helps you, often it makes you feel better. Okay? A little less sad. Or, hey, here's a routine I learned. If you think about it this way, so you got some behavioral and cognitive stuff going on from some social support, right? Those then, you can then start to classify what's happening as an interest. I can develop situational, yeah, this is great. I'm having a great time. I can say, I'm efficacy. Let's see if I can even say that. I have efficacy. I have power over my success in what we're doing here. Right? It's not dependent upon external attributional sorts of variables. I have knowledge and skills to bear, and I am accountable to those around me. I have this social obligation. And we develop these kinds of attitudes in the midst of solving a math problem, right? Engaging in algebra. And so we see this embodied, affective, multifaceted nature of engagement playing out in mathematics classrooms. And you watch it. You sit down and watch what students are doing. You see all of these happening in the moment. How do you piece that out? That's one of the big questions that's unanswered, of course, but we're making some inroads. A lot of people are making inroads right now. And you see the cybernetic aspect, that little line across the top is a feedback arrow. Perfect. It's where we can now consolidate these things that I've learned in the moment. I've hated math, but discrete math, not so bad, right? Right, Maria? Right. There are students in Phoenix that one of the great things I was allowed to do was work with mathematics teachers and give them a graduate course in discrete mathematics. And we said, given what we've learned, can we create a fourth-year course for students that is just as good as pre-calc or calculus, right? Just as good, but different, so we can engage a lot more people in different things, in telecommunications networks and understanding statistics and other things. And we created that. And students have stayed in, and they persisted because they didn't know any better, right? This isn't mathematics. The algebra was very different. Okay? Those kinds of cues that they had are not leading them to negative affect, negative emotion, these other sorts of things. And so we see much better achievement for those students in that class. And of course, they can move on and utilize these skills that are not taught in the traditional mathematics courses to help, in future occupations immediately. Okay. And the kind of promising practices I have to shout out to a lot of people here. I think I've already shouted out to Melissa and Vicki, but Mandy Jansen, my compatriot on this project, of course, is a very bright person. She invented this topic called rough draft math, right? It's like, ooh, I wish I would have thought of that. Rough draft math. But inside rough draft math, these are some of the things that we see. Now notice that there's so much of this is academic and social support, peer support, designing a classroom culture that enables people to say, I can, I will, I have a role, I have a place. It's not so bad. I'm a little scared, but I've got people around me. Okay? This is what we're aspiring to. Okay? And these are the things in our own project that we found were productive for promoting situational interest, situational efficacy, a belief of the instrumentality, the utility of the mathematics, and also the development of a positive attitude towards social engagement. These sorts of things were very productive. And this is hardly different than, again, I talked about Vicki and Melissa. This is very similar to the things that they're talking about. We are converging upon, somebody ought to write about this at some point in time, converging upon some consensual ideas that are productive for, I wouldn't say increasing engagement, but helping us understand it and helping students engage themselves more productively over time. And so there's a few things I think that are really important in the next steps for research. Number one of the things we found is that people, all I've ever discovered is drab discoveries of the obvious, okay? People can have many conflicting emotions at the same time, duh, okay? Now, why is it that the emotion literature doesn't talk about that? Okay, now it's not that it is or isn't. They will acknowledge it, but there hasn't been much in it. Why? Well, it's because I can be mad at Corey. Dang it, right? I can be mad at Corey, but I can also be happy that I'm being productive in this mathematics task. Corey is slacking off. And so I can be angry and happy. I can be proud, and I can be anxious. So there are these multiple emotions that are playing off in the classroom, many of them dependent upon who or what I'm directing that emotion towards. Towards the mathematics, ooh, I hate that thing. Towards my peers, man, I love working with Mandy. So fantastic, even though she did the rough draft math, okay? Or the teacher, right? The teacher is against me, or whatever. Or the teacher's for me. Or there are many, many things. They also bring these emotions from home, so the object is not necessarily something in the classroom, but it becomes part of the mathematical activity as being brought in psychologically and or interpersonally with some of the children. Not just children, okay? Adults as well. You guys as well. What am I doing? Another one is really to examine the key role of social support. See, third time I've shouted out to these people. Such good work on identity. Who am I? Who am I here relative to who am I back home? Who can I be? How can I help myself be that? These kinds of questions. And then, how can I help Corey? Because he's slacking off. No. How can I help these people in my in my group or in my peer group? How can I develop a need for belonging such that that need is supportive and not, distracting? And this is deeply connected with cultural narratives. There are many things that I do as a cisgender white male, okay, that are not deemed, great cultural practices by many people who may be my students. I've got to think about that. And maybe what they do is culturally appropriate, and I have to then step out of my shell and start to say, okay, who can I be? Final thoughts. So we need to do away with this whole idea that you have to be good at math. You can engage with others in math and not, you start where you're at and you get better. I get better playing by playing with my band. They're good musicians, and they help me play better, and I help them play better. Okay, so I'm not a great guitar player. I'm obviously not a great singer. I'm a pretty good songwriter. But we put those together, and people tend to like it. Right? They tend to like my band performing and doing these sorts of things. I don't have to be great. What I have to be is someone who's willing to listen and who's willing to connect with others, and someone who's willing to try to put that together and have some, and feel that I have people around me that, when you have the heckler, that they back me up. Okay? We need to understand that engagement is multifaceted and that people are engaged in multiple things simultaneously. If we think that it's just about math engagement, just this math task, then we are fooling ourselves, and we need to be able to understand that. What is it that people are bringing in? The whole issue of identity is ripe for that understanding. We need to develop tools for assessing engagement better so we can help students assess their own engagement and regulate, in particular, their emotions while engaged. One of the best tools in the special education for helping people that have severe emotional disturbances is just helping them recognize when it's getting a little high, anxiety's getting a little high. And if you can recognize that, then you go, oh, hey, here's some strategies. You can actually do something about it. It's the same in mathematics, anxiety. But also, of course, if I'm getting too exuberant, right, there's some strategies. Self-regulation. We want help students regulate their emotions. Did that. Above all, we want students to have ways to engage in mathematics at a meaningful level. This goes back to, I thought Mitch's talk was truly, really inspiring, okay? Made me think of different ways I could engage even my juniors and seniors in mechanical engineering, okay? And so how can I help them make meaning of this crazy stuff that we call mathematics, that we value and we understand, but they're maybe not yet there. And so to think about engagement, I thought, gosh, one of the most engaging phenomena that I have seen in the last year, of course, is the Barbie movie. Right? I have to tell you, I love that movie for many reasons. Now, whatever you think about Barbie and the math is hard stuff, math class is hard. The movie, I thought, was quite forward-thinking. Right? I thought it was fun, actually, and funny. There's some things that we might do differently, but overall, I don't have a whole lot of criticism for it, and I love its approach to thinking about diversity. Maybe not as diverse as I want, but pretty darn good for the genre. And so you gonna come up, Mitch? Got people gonna come up and play? What do you got? What do you got? Okay. So in that movie, there's a recurring song. It goes. Anybody know what that song is? What? Closer to Fine. Anybody know the words to that? It's it is one of the best Indigo Girls songs ever. Way off of. Way back in, what is it, 92? But Closer to Fine, and it was sung throughout, and the main phrase in there is, the less I seek my source for some definitive, the closer I am to fine. Okay? We want to think about that in relation to ourselves and our students in our classroom. So, you got the words, and see, I don't have a bouncing ball, sorry. Don't have a bouncing ball here. But I got the words. And so those of you who know the words can sing it, especially Closer to Fine. Okay, you can do that. Okay. I'm trying to tell myself. Sorry about that. I cannot hear myself through this. Can you hear me when I'm singing? Okay. It's no monitor, sorry. I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Let's do it again. Sorry, let's do it in B flat. I can't be Emily Salier without it. Goes like, I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe get insight between black and white. And the best thing you ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. Well, the darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and the heightness has a call that's hard to hear. Well, I wrap my fears around me like a blanket. I sailed my ship of safety till I sank it. I'm crawling on your shore. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountain, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountain, and there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source for some definitive, closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah. And I went to see a doctor of philosophy. Looks like all you guys out there. Sir of Rasputin and a beard down to his knees. Well, he never did marry or see a B-grade movie. He graded my performance. He said he could see through me, and I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountain, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountain, and there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. You guys are doing great. And the less I seek myself for some definitive, closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah. And I stopped at a bar at 3 a.m. seeking solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. And I woke up with a headache like my head between a board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before. I went in seeking clarity. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountain, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountain. We go to the doctor, we go to the mountain, we look to the children, we drank from the fountain. We go to the Bible, we go through the workout, we read up on revival, we stand up on the lookout, and there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And here we go. That's I seek my source for some definitive. Closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah. So with my parting words here, that's what it's about, these last two slides. So we had this movie that engaged people, okay? We look at these people, we say, hey, this is a vision of what could be. And we see young people, young children. We see older people, you know. Don't I know it? Remember that? What was the best scene in the whole movie? We see trans folks. We see cisgendered folks. We see people who are trying to understand who they are, these identity questions. They're engaged in, they're engaged in this movie and feeling good about themselves. Is there a way? Is there a way we can make mathematics at least not deadly? Thank you. Oh, I better keep this on, right? Don't have time for questions. Truny. That's probably be better.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Mitch. What a performance. Who would have thought he'd be entertained like this in a math conference? I said, don't do a boring old slideshow presentations that put everyone to sleep after they have traveled all around the country. So you can continue to ask them questions because we are going to have a reception afterwards. And
the answers will get much more.
yes. So I suggest you find them and surround them and ask them your questions.